The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched for nearly a kilometer in every direction, its crystalline walls reflecting the light of 1,000 distant stars. Representatives from 47 species sat in their designated sectors, their forms as varied as the worlds they came from. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some perceived reality through electromagnetic waves, others through quantum resonance. Yet all understood the weight of this moment. Ambassador Chen walked across the polished floor toward the central speaking platform, her footsteps echoing in the unusual silence. She was unremarkable by galactic standards. Bipedal, carbon-based, lacking any visible psionic organs or natural weaponry. Her plain gray suit seemed drab compared to the bioluminescent displays and energy fields that adorned the other delegates. But every eye, sensor, and perception organ tracked her movement. She reached the platform and placed a single data tablet on the podium. When she spoke, her voice was calm, almost gentle. Honored members of the Galactic Council, humanity formally withdraws from all treaties, alliances, and agreements effective immediately. We are grateful for the opportunities we have shared, but we have decided our path lies elsewhere. We ask only that you respect our decision and do not attempt to follow us or contact us. This is not a negotiation, it is a notification. Thank you for your time. The silence that followed lasted exactly 3 seconds before it shattered. Ambassador Thurkren of the Valorian Empire rose to his full 3 meters, his 4 arms spread in a gesture of dismissive amusement. The Valorians had ruled a quarter of the galaxy for 10,000 years, and their arrogance was as legendary as their military might. "This is unexpected," Thurkren said, his translator rendering his clicking speech into standard galactic. "Though perhaps not unwelcome, humanity has always been difficult. Your insistence on individual rights, your emotional decision-making, your refusal to accept proper hierarchy. Perhaps it is best you go your own way." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Keltar delegation, their translucent forms shimmering with psionic energy, communicated their approval through telepathic bursts. The Chronarchs, ancient beings who perceive time as humans perceive space, nodded with the certainty of those who had already seen this future play out safely. High Chancellor Vortek, an insectoid being whose species had mediated council disputes for 3 millennia, raised a foreclaw for silence. "Ambassador Chen, this is a significant decision. Humanity controls 73 colony worlds, operates 6 major trade hubs, and maintains defense pacts with 12 species. The economic and military implications are substantial. Surely there is room for discussion." Chen's expression remained neutral. "We have made our choice. Our colony worlds will be evacuated within 6 months. Our trade hubs will transfer to local management. Our defense pacts are hereby dissolved with appropriate compensation. All human vessels will depart Council space completely. We ask only that you do not interfere with our departure." "And where exactly do you intend to go?" asked Seer Thelmra of the Chronarchs, her ancient voice carrying the weight of millennia. "The galaxy is catalogued. We know every habitable system, every resource-rich asteroid field. There is nowhere to hide." For the first time, Chen smiled. It was not a friendly expression. "We are not hiding, Seer. We are simply leaving. Do not look for us. Do not follow us. Consider humanity a closed chapter in your history." She picked up her tablet and walked toward the exit. No one moved to stop her. As the massive doors sealed behind her, the chamber erupted in conversation. "Good riddance," Thelmra announced loudly. "Humans were always more trouble than they were worth. Adequate soldiers, yes. Competent engineers, perhaps. But they lacked vision. They could not accept their place in the natural order of things. Their psionic potential was negligible," added a Keltar representative. "Their technological development was derivative. They brought nothing unique to the Council." High Chancellor Vortek was less certain. "They were resourceful, adaptable, In the border wars, human tactics saved countless lives. Their absence will be felt. Their absence will be a relief, Thekrin countered. They questioned everything, challenged every protocol, demanded justification for every rule. The Council will function more smoothly without their constant disruption. The motion to accept humanity's withdrawal passed with only 3 dissenting votes. Over the following months, the galaxy watched with mixed curiosity and relief as humanity made good on its promise. Colony worlds were evacuated with remarkable efficiency. Entire populations packed up centuries of settlement and departed without explanation. Trade hubs transferred ownership smoothly, with humans honoring every contract and obligation before leaving. The destination remained a mystery. Long-range sensors tracked the human fleet as it moved toward the Outer Veil, a vast region of space that the Council had marked as hazardous centuries ago. The Veil was characterized by dimensional instabilities, unpredictable gravity wells, and navigation disruptions that made it effectively impenetrable to standard technology. They will not survive there, predicted the Chronarch seers. The dimensional stresses will tear their ships apart. But the human fleet did not hesitate. One by one, their vessels crossed the boundary and vanished from all sensors. Within 3 months, every human ship, station, and outpost in Council space had been abandoned. The Galactic Communications Network, which had carried human voices for 2 centuries, went silent. Earth itself, humanity's homeworld, ceased all external transmissions. Automated defenses politely but firmly turned away any vessels that approached the Sol system. The message was always the same. Thank you for your interest. Humanity requests privacy. Please respect our boundaries. At first, the Council monitored the situation closely. They dispatched observation drones to the edge of the Veil. But the probes either malfunctioned or returned data so corrupted it was useless. After a year of fruitless surveillance, the Council voted to classify the Outer Veil and all former human territories as restricted zones and turned their attention elsewhere. In the Grand Chamber, a new delegate took the seat that had once belonged to humanity. The Valorian Empire expanded into 3 former human colonies. The Keltar absorbed 2 of the trade hubs. Life continued as it had for millennia, following the comfortable patterns of galactic civilization. Ambassador Thekren was promoted to High Ambassador for his sector. At a celebration of his elevation, he raised a ceremonial vessel in a toast. To a more orderly galaxy, he declared, may humanity find whatever peace they seek in their self-imposed exile. The Council is stronger without them. The assembled delegates drank and agreed. None of them noticed the slight flicker in the station's sensors. A momentary disruption, so brief it registered only as a rounding error in the logs. None of them knew that far beyond the Outer Veil, in the silence they had dismissed as surrender, humanity had already begun to build something the galaxy had never seen before. The Council had made a choice. They had permitted humanity to leave in silence, believing it solved a problem. They would not realize their mistake for 50 years. By then, it would be far too late. The Keltar science vessel, Luminous Inquiry, drifted at the edge of the Outer Veil. Its sensors extended to maximum range. Dr. Velshara, the expedition's lead researcher, floated in the center of the observation sphere, her translucent form pulsing with concentration as she processed data through her psionic cortex. 50 years had passed since humanity's departure. An entire generation of Council citizens had grown up, never meeting a human. The restricted zones around former human space had become routine, just another administrative notation in the vast bureaucracy of galactic governance. Most had forgotten about humanity entirely. But Velshara had not forgotten. She had been a junior researcher when the humans left, and their sudden withdrawal had always bothered her. Species did not simply vanish. They left traces, evidence, signals. Yet from the Outer Veil, There had been nothing but silence for 5 decades. Until 6 weeks ago. The anomalies had started small. Unusual gravitational readings at the veil's edge. Fluctuations in the dimensional fabric that did not match natural patterns. Energy signatures that appeared and vanished before they could be properly analyzed. Velshara had convinced the council to fund an investigation, though it had taken months of bureaucratic maneuvering. "Doctor, we are detecting another anomaly," announced her assistant, a young Keltar named Pelton. "Bearing 317, distance approximately 2 light hours." Velshara extended her consciousness toward the readings. There was definitely something there. A structured energy pattern, too regular to be natural. "Take us closer." Standard approach protocols. The luminous inquiry moved forward, its experimental drives allowing it to navigate the veil's treacherous currents. Velshara had spent her career studying dimensional mechanics, and she understood the veil better than most. The region was not randomly chaotic. It was structured chaos, like rapids in a river. If you knew the patterns, you could navigate them. They found the source of the anomaly 3 hours later. "By the ancestors," Pelton whispered, his form flickering with shock. Hanging in space before them was a structure, not a station or a ship, but something that defied easy categorization. It was roughly spherical, perhaps 5 kilometers in diameter, its surface covered in geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. The patterns seemed to shift and change, existing in more dimensions than the eye could properly process. "What is it?" Pelton asked. "I have no idea," Velshara admitted, "but scan it, everything we can. Full spectrum analysis." The sensors revealed impossible readings. Its temperature existed in multiple states simultaneously. Parts of it seemed to exist slightly ahead or behind normal time. The construction materials registered as familiar elements: iron, carbon, silicon, but arranged in configurations that should not be stable. "Doctor, there is something else," Pelton said, his voice tight with concern. "There is a ship nearby, Valorian design." Velshara felt a chill in her psionic core. "Distance? 300 kilometers. It appears to be adrift." They approached the Valorian vessel cautiously. It was a light cruiser, the pride of valor, with a crew complement of approximately 200. According to the registry, it had been reported missing 4 months ago while on a patrol near the Veil. The ship was intact. Its hull showed no damage, no signs of combat or collision. The power systems were running normally. Life support was functional. But when they hailed the vessel, there was no response. Velshara made the decision to board. She took a security team and entered through the main airlock, which opened normally to their authorization codes. The interior corridors were lit and pressurized. Everything seemed perfectly normal, except there was no one aboard. They searched the entire ship. Crew quarters, bridge, engineering, cargo bays, all empty. Food was found half-eaten in the mess hall. Personal effects remained in crew cabins. The ship's log showed normal operations up until 3 days before their discovery. Then nothing but corrupted files that displayed only static. "Where did they go?" one of the security officers asked, his 4 arms gripping his weapons nervously. Velshara had no answer. The ship's shuttle bays were full. The escape pods were all present and unused. There was simply no way for 200 beings to leave the vessel. They had not been killed. There were no bodies, no blood, no signs of violence. They had simply ceased to exist. The team returned to the luminous inquiry shaken. Velshara immediately composed a report for the council, flagging it as urgent. Then she ordered her crew to set course back to council space. They never made it. On the 3rd day of their return journey, Pelton noticed something wrong with the navigation sensors. "Doctor, we are drifting off course. The dimensional currents are shifting." "Compensate," Velshara ordered. "I am trying, but the pattern is changing too quickly. It is almost as if—" He paused, his form flickering rapidly with processing. "Doctor, this is not a natural current. Something is actively manipulating the dimensional fabric around us. The ship lurched. Alarms blared. Through the observation sphere, Velshara saw space itself bending, folding in ways that violated every law of physics she understood. And in the distance, emerging from the distortion like a leviathan rising from deep water, was a ship. But calling it a ship was like calling a star a campfire. It was massive beyond comprehension, easily hundreds of kilometers long. Its hull was not metal, or any material Velshara recognized. It seemed to be woven from folded space itself. Layers of reality compressed and shaped into structure. Lights moved across its surface in patterns that conveyed information she could almost grasp, mathematical concepts that her psionic mind struggled to process. And it was undeniably of human design. She could see the aesthetic choices, the structural philosophy that matched human engineering. But it was human engineering evolved beyond anything they had achieved during their time in Council space. A transmission came through, audio only. The voice was human, speaking perfect galactic standard with a hint of an accent Velshara did not recognize. Keltar vessel, you are in restricted space. Turn back immediately. This is your only warning. Velshara found her voice. This is Dr. Velshara of the Luminous Inquiry. We are on a sanctioned research mission. We mean no harm. Acknowledged. Turn back immediately. We need to report our findings to the Council. We found one of your structures and a missing Valorian ship. We must... The transmission cut her off. You found what we allowed you to find. Now leave. You have 10 minutes to clear the boundary. The massive ship did not move, but Velshara felt the dimensional currents shift again, creating a clear path back toward Council space. It was not a suggestion. All crew, prepare for maximum velocity. The Luminous Inquiry turned and fled. As they crossed back into normal space, Pelton checked their sensor logs. His form went completely still, the Keltar equivalent of shock. Doctor, the timestamps are wrong. According to our chronometers, we were in the Veil for 3 days, but according to Council spacetime, we have been gone for 3 weeks. Velshara understood immediately. The humans have not just been building structures in the Veil. They had learned to manipulate time itself. And if they could do that, what else had they learned? She filed her report with the Council the moment they docked. She included every sensor reading, every image, every piece of data. She marked it with the highest priority classification. The Council received it 3 days later. By then, 2 more ships had vanished near the outer Veil. A pirate fleet of 30 vessels had entered the restricted zone, seeking salvage. A Chronarch observation post detected massive stellar engineering events deep in the Veil. Stars being moved, orbits being altered, energy being harvested on scales that should be impossible. And when the Chronarch seers tried to look into the future of that region, their visions went dark. For the first time in their species' history, they could not see what was coming. In the Council chamber, High Ambassador Kren read the reports with growing unease. After 50 years of silence, humanity had finally been seen again. And what had been seen suggested that humanity's departure had not been a retreat. It had been a metamorphosis. The Council's emergency session was held behind closed doors, with security protocols activated that had not been used in 3 centuries. Only the highest-ranking representatives of each member species were present. The massive chamber felt emptier than usual, and the silence was oppressive. High Chancellor Vortek had aged significantly in the 50 years since humanity's departure. His carapace showed stress fractures, and his movements were slower. But his mind remained sharp, and the reports before him filled him with dread. "Let us be clear about the situation," he began, his translated voice heavy with concern. "In the past 3 months, we have lost contact with 17 vessels near the outer Veil. 2 observation outposts have gone silent. Our long-range sensors detect energy signatures that suggest engineering on a stellar scale. The Chronarchs can no longer predict events in that region. And Dr. Vel'Sharah's encounter suggests humanity has not only survived in the Veil, but has advanced beyond our comprehension. Does anyone disagree with this assessment? No one spoke. Then we must address the obvious question. What do we do about it? High Ambassador Thkren stood. He was older now, too. His once vibrant scales dulled with age, but his voice carried the same authority. We must investigate properly. Vel'Sharah's mission was scientific, unprepared for contact. We should send a military expedition, not to attack, but to gather intelligence. We need to know what humanity has become. And if they do not wish to be investigated, asked Seer Thelmra, they have made their desire for isolation clear. Then we must ask ourselves whether we can afford to respect that desire. Thkren replied. An unknown power on our borders, possessing technology we cannot understand, refusing all contact. This is a threat, whether intended or not. The debate raged for hours. Some argued for respect of boundaries, others for proactive investigation. The Valorian delegation pushed hardest for military action, still bitter about their lost cruiser. Finally, a compromise was reached, a covert intelligence operation, the best operatives from multiple species, equipped with the most advanced stealth technology available. The mission would be led by Zarinth, a Keltar infiltrator whose psionic abilities made him nearly undetectable. He had spent decades in intelligence work, operating behind enemy lines in conflicts across the galaxy. If anyone could slip into the outer veil and return with information, it was him. Zarinth accepted the mission without hesitation. He was briefed on everything known about the region, given access to experimental cloaking technology, and provided with an extraction plan. 2 weeks later, his stealth ship crossed into the Veil. For 3 days, the Council received regular status updates. Zarinth reported navigating the dimensional currents successfully, detecting signs of massive construction, and approaching what appeared to be an inhabited system. Then, the transmission stopped. 6 weeks passed. The Council feared he had been lost like the others. Then, without warning, Zarinth's ship appeared at the edge of Council space, moving at impossible velocity. It crashed into a military outpost's docking bay, its hull scorched and its systems failing. Medical teams rushed to extract Zarinth from the wreckage. What they found horrified them. The infiltrator's translucent form was flickering erratically, his psionic field destabilized. He was conscious, but barely coherent, his mind broadcasting traumatic images and emotions uncontrollably. The medical team sedated him and transported him to the most secure facility in Council space. It took 2 weeks before Zarinth was stable enough to be debriefed. Even then, he could only communicate through carefully filtered telepathy, his thoughts too chaotic for direct speech. High Chancellor Vortek himself attended the session, along with select council members. "Show us," Vortek said gently. "Show us what you saw." Zarinth's mind opened, and the observers were pulled into his memories. They saw the outer veil from the inside, its dimensional chaos tamed and structured. Vast constructs spanned the distance between stars, structures so large they made planets look like pebbles. Energy flowed through these constructs in patterns that were simultaneously beautiful and terrifying, feeding systems that operated on principles the observers could not grasp. They saw ships, thousands of them, moving through folded space, traveling distances that should take months in mere moments. The ships were elegant and deadly, their hulls incorporating technologies that seemed to bend the rules of physics. Some appeared to exist partially outside normal space-time. Others generated fields that the observers' minds interpreted as both shields and weapons simultaneously. They saw stations, habitats, entire worlds that had been constructed rather than found. Artificial planets with carefully engineered biospheres. Ring worlds circling harvested stars. Megastructures that collected energy from dimensions the Council did not even know existed. But the structures and ships were not the most disturbing part. They saw humans. Not the humans who had left 50 years ago, bipedal, fragile, bound by the limitations of biology. These humans had changed. Some were augmented with technology so advanced it was indistinguishable from their flesh. Others had transcended biology entirely, their consciousness distributed across networks that spanned solar systems. Some existed as pure energy, their physical forms abandoned entirely. And they were not scattered or disorganized. They moved with purpose, guided by a collective vision that Zarenth could sense but not fully understand. They were building something, preparing for something, working toward a goal with the single-minded determination that had always characterized their species. Zarenth showed them cities that floated in space without visible support, their architecture incorporating mathematics that made his psionic senses ache. He showed them factories that assembled matter at the atomic level, creating whatever was needed from raw elements. He showed them weapons, devices that did not destroy, but simply edited reality, removing whatever they targeted from existence entirely. And he showed them Earth. The human homeworld had become unrecognizable. It was wrapped in layers of constructed reality, artificial dimensions nested around it like shells. The planet itself had been carefully preserved, but around it, humanity had built a monument to their transformation. Structures extended from the surface into dimensions that the observers could not properly perceive. The space around Earth was so densely packed with technology and modified physics that it appeared as a solid sphere of impossibility. The observers felt Zarenth's terror as he had hidden in the shadow of a mining station, watching a human work crew disassemble an asteroid. They had not used tools or machinery. They had simply gestured, and matter had obeyed, reshaping itself according to their will. One of the workers had paused and looked directly at Zarenth's hiding place, though his stealth systems should have made him invisible. The human had smiled, not threatening, just knowing, and returned to work. That was when Zarenth had realized the truth. He had never been undetected. They had known he was there from the moment he entered the veil. They had allowed him to see what he saw. This was not intelligence gathering. It was a message. The memory shifted to Zarenth's escape. His ship had been released from whatever field had been holding it, and the dimensional currents had shifted to create a clear path back to Council space. As he fled, his sensors had detected something that made his blood freeze. A massive fleet, easily 10,000 ships, gathering at the edge of the veil. They were not moving yet, just assembling, waiting. And then the final memory. A transmission had come through his ship's systems, bypassing every security protocol. It was Ambassador Chen's voice, older, but unmistakable. Tell them we are coming home. Tell them we gave them time to change. Tell them we are disappointed they did not. The memory ended. The observers pulled themselves back into their own minds, shaken and terrified. Vortek looked at Zarenth with pity and horror. How long? The Chancellor asked. How long do we have? Zarenth's reply came as a weak telepathic pulse. They are already on their way. I could feel it. The waiting is over. They are coming, and there is nothing we can do to stop them. The sealed testimony ended. The observers sat in silence, each processing what they had seen. The galaxy they knew, the order they had maintained for millennia, was about to face something it had never encountered before. A humanity unbound by weakness, armed with impossible power, and carrying 50 years of judgment. High Ambassador Thakren spoke into the silence, his voice hollow. What have we done? We let them go. We let them become this. No, Vortek corrected quietly. We pushed them to become this. They asked us to change. They showed us the flaws in our system, and we dismissed them as troublesome children. Now the children have grown up. and they are coming home to have a very different conversation. The question of what to do about humanity was no longer relevant. Now the only question was, what would humanity do about them? The Valorian Empire's decision to launch a preemptive strike was made without council approval. High Commander Zekthar, a warrior who had earned his rank through 3 centuries of military service, watched the vote in the Imperial Senate with satisfaction. The politicians had finally seen sense. Waiting for humanity to attack was cowardice. The Valorian way was to strike first and strike hard. "We will show these upstart humans that the galaxy still has teeth," Zekthar announced to his assembled fleet commanders. 300,000 warships, the largest armada ever assembled. We will cross into the Veil. We will destroy whatever we find, and we will return victorious. The Council may have grown soft, but the Valorian Empire remembers how to make war. The fleet assembled at the edge of the Outer Veil over the course of 2 weeks. Ships arrived from every corner of the Empire, representing the accumulated military might of a civilization that had conquered countless worlds. Carriers the size of cities, battleships equipped with planet-cracking weapons, fighter craft that could outmaneuver any opponent. The combined firepower could sterilize 100 worlds. Zekthar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Endless Glory, and addressed his fleet. "We fight not for conquest, but for survival. Intelligence suggests humanity has grown powerful, but power means nothing without the will to use it. We have that will. We are Valorians. We do not flinch. We do not hesitate. We do not surrender. Forward." The Armada entered the Outer Veil in formation, their navigation systems coordinated, their weapons primed. For the first 3 days, everything went according to plan. They encountered the dimensional anomalies Valshara had reported, but with so many ships working together, they navigated them successfully. Scouts reported detecting structures in the distance, the human constructs that intelligence had warned about. On the 4th day, they found the enemy. The human fleet appeared on their sensors without warning. One moment space was empty, the next 10,000 ships occupied positions surrounding the Valorian Armada. They had not traveled there, they had simply appeared, as if they had been waiting in folded space for the exact right moment to reveal themselves. Zekthar studied the formation with a warrior's eye. The human ships were smaller than he expected, none larger than a Valorian frigate. Their hulls showed elegant design, but no obvious weapons. This encouraged him. "They think to intimidate us with numbers," he said. "But numbers mean nothing when facing superior firepower. All ships, target acquisition. Prepare to demonstrate Valorian might." The weapons officer worked his console. Then he paused, his forearms hesitating over the controls. "Commander, the targeting systems are not responding. I cannot achieve lock." "What? Check the systems, now." "I am trying, Commander, but the systems report everything is functioning normally. They simply cannot detect the human vessels as valid targets. It is as if the ships are somehow excluded from our weapon targeting protocols." Before Zekthar could respond, a transmission came through. It was audio only, a human voice speaking with calm authority. "Valorian fleet, you have entered protected space with clear hostile intent. This is your only opportunity to withdraw. Turn back now." Zekthar's pride would not allow retreat. "This is High Commander Zekthar of the Valorian Empire. You will stand down immediately, or be destroyed. You are outnumbered, 30 to 1. Surrender, and we may show mercy." A pause. Then the human voice replied, and Zekthar could hear the sadness in it. "You still do not understand. Very well, let us show you." One of the human ships moved. It did not accelerate. It simply changed position, covering the distance between fleets instantaneously. It stopped in the center of a Valorian destroyer squadron, surrounded by 30 warships. The destroyers opened fire immediately. Zekthar watched on the tactical display as millions of rounds of ammunition, energy beams, and missiles converged on the human vessel. The sensors registered every impact. The human ship should have been vaporized instantly. Instead, it remained completely untouched. The weapons passed through it as if it were a ghost, or as if it existed slightly out of phase with normal space. The human ship then emitted a pulse of something. The sensors could not classify it as energy or matter. The Valorian destroyers simply stopped. Their engines cut out. Their weapons fell silent. Their lights went dark. 30 warships reduced to inert metal in the space of 3 seconds. "Report!" Zekthar roared. "The ships are intact, Commander, but all systems are offline. It is as if they have been switched off. Life support is minimal. Crews are alive, but unable to respond." The human ship moved again, appearing at another section of the fleet. Another pulse. More ships went dark. It was not destroying them, it was deactivating them, the way one might turn off a light. "All ships, evasive maneuvers, scatter formation," Zekthar ordered. The fleet tried to disperse, but the human ships matched every movement effortlessly. They moved through space in ways that violated everything Zekthar understood about physics. Some seemed to predict where Valorian ships would move before they moved. Others simply folded space, appearing wherever they wished. More pulses, more ships went dark. The Valorian fleet, the pride of the Empire, was being systematically disabled without a single shot being fired that actually connected. It was not a battle, it was a demonstration. Zekthar made a desperate decision. All carriers, launch all fighters, bombers target the human vessels with nuclear payloads. If we cannot shoot them, we will detonate weapons around them. Nothing can survive a nuclear blast at point-blank range. Thousands of fighter craft poured from the carrier bays. Bombers moved into position, their most powerful weapons armed and ready. On Zekthar's order, they detonated. Space lit up with dozens of nuclear explosions, each one capable of vaporizing a small moon. The sensors were overwhelmed by the energy release. For a moment, Zekthar allowed himself hope. Then the light faded and the human ships were still there, completely unharmed. Whatever shielding technology they possessed had simply absorbed the blasts without even flickering. A new transmission came through, a different voice this time. "We have shown you our defensive capabilities. Do not make us show you our offensive ones. Stand down immediately." Zekthar's pride finally broke. 300,000 ships, and they could not even scratch the enemy. "All ships, cease fire. All ships, withdraw. Fall back to Council space." The human ships did not pursue. They simply held position as the Valorian fleet limped away. Thousands of vessels dark and being towed by those still functional. The great armada that had entered the Vale had been humiliated without a single casualty on either side. The retreat took 6 days. When they finally cleared the Vale and returned to Council space, Zekthar expected relief. Instead, he found something worse. Humanity had sent them home with a message. The message arrived 6 hours after the fleet returned to the Imperial capital world. A single human ship appeared at the edge of the system. Not one of the military vessels, but a small courier ship, the kind that should not even be capable of faster-than-light travel. Yet it had appeared instantaneously, crossing hundreds of light-years in 0 time. It broadcast on all frequencies, and every system in the Empire received it simultaneously. The image was of an elderly human woman in a simple gray suit, standing before what appeared to be a vast congressional assembly. The background showed structures that hurt to look at, mega-constructs, visible through massive windows. "I am Ambassador Chen," the woman said. 50 years ago, I informed the Galactic Council that humanity was withdrawing. We asked only that you respect our decision and allow us to leave in peace. You did, and for that we were grateful. However, we also told you something else, though you may not have heard it. We told you, through our departure, that your system was broken. that your galactic order was built on oppression, exploitation, and the strong dominating the weak. We left because we could no longer participate in such a system. The camera pulled back, showing more of the assembly. Billions of humans, not just from a few worlds, but from thousands. Every face showed the same resolve. We hoped that our departure would inspire reflection. We hoped that you would use the time to examine your civilization and find ways to improve it. We gave you 50 years. Now we have returned to see what you have done with that time. Shen's expression hardened. You have done nothing. The same empires dominate. The same species are exploited. The same corruption persists. And when you finally noticed our presence again, your response was to send warriors to destroy us. She gestured, and the image split to show the Valorian fleet's engagement. Every moment of their defeat was displayed in humiliating detail. You sent 300,000 ships against us. We sent them back. Every warrior is alive and unharmed. Every ship is intact. We did this to show you two things. First, that we could have destroyed you but chose not to. And second, that your way of thinking, that power means the ability to destroy, is obsolete. The image returned to Chen alone. Behind her, through those impossible windows, something massive began to move. Entire fleets, thousands of ships, preparing to depart. We are coming home, not to conquer, but to transform. The galaxy you have built is ending. What comes next will be better, fairer, and more just. You have a choice. Help us build this new order, or stand aside while we build it around you. But the old ways are over. The transmission ended. The courier ship vanished, returning to wherever it had come from in an instant. In the council chamber, representatives from every member species watched the message in stunned silence. Zekthar stood before them, his armor still scorched from the retreat, and delivered his report. They could have destroyed us, he said quietly, all pride gone from his voice. Every soldier, every officer, everyone who was there understands this. We threw everything we had at them, and they swatted us aside like insects. But they did not kill us. They sent us home to carry this message. Humanity has evolved beyond us, and they are coming back to judge us for what we have become. High Chancellor Vortek looked at the assembled representatives. They are giving us a choice. Perhaps we should take it. But even as he spoke, he knew many would refuse. Pride, tradition, and fear of change were powerful forces. The galaxy was about to face its greatest crisis, and it had been created by their own dismissal of those who had tried to show them a better way. The reckoning was coming, and there would be no escape. The human fleet emerged from the outer veil like a tide that had been held back for too long. But it was not the invasion the council had feared. There were no bombardments, no ultimatums, no demands for surrender. Instead, the human ships simply began to operate throughout council space with calm, methodical efficiency. On the slave-holding worlds of the Tertian hegemony, humans arrived at the labor camps. They did not attack the guards or free the slaves through violence. Instead, their technology simply made the restraint systems obsolete. Shock collars stopped functioning. Tracking implants became inert. Prison doors opened on their own. The Tertian enforcers found their weapons would not fire, their vehicles would not start, and their communication systems only broadcast a single message. The era of forced servitude is over. Adapt or become irrelevant. The slaves walked free, and humanity provided them with transport, supplies, and assistance in returning to their homeworlds. When Tertian military vessels tried to intervene, they found their targeting systems would not recognize the human ships, and their engines would not function within a certain radius of human technology. They could only watch as centuries of exploitation ended overnight. On the corrupt trade stations that had facilitated black market trafficking and illegal weapons trade, humans appeared in the control centers. They did not arrest anyone or destroy anything. They simply took over the station systems and began broadcasting every illegal transaction, every bribe, every secret deal to the entire galaxy. The criminals who ran these operations found themselves exposed completely, their wealth frozen, their escape routes closed. Within days, galactic law enforcement agencies had enough evidence to prosecute thousands of cases that had been hidden for decades. On worlds where corporate exploitation had stripped resources while leaving populations in poverty, human economic advisors arrived with proposals. They offered new technologies for resource extraction that did not harm ecosystems. They provided manufacturing systems that could operate on scales that made the old corporate models obsolete. They did not demand control or payment. They simply made the exploitative systems inefficient compared to the alternatives they provided. In the council chamber itself, Ambassador Chen returned for the first time in 50 years. She walked the same path she had walked when announcing humanity's departure, but now she did not walk alone. Behind her came a delegation of humans representing the thousands of worlds they now inhabited. They took the seats that had once been reserved for humanity, and Chen addressed the assembly. Honored members of the Galactic Council, we have returned as promised. Over the past 6 weeks, we have operated throughout Council space. We have freed those unjustly enslaved. We have exposed corruption. We have offered alternatives to exploitative systems. We have done all of this without firing a single weapon or taking a single life. Do you understand why? High Chancellor Vortek, now ancient but still in his position, spoke carefully. You wish to demonstrate your power. No, Chen replied. We wish to demonstrate that power is not what you believe it to be. For millennia, the galaxy has operated under the assumption that power means the ability to destroy, to dominate, to impose your will through force. This assumption has created a civilization built on fear, exploitation, and endless cycles of oppression. We left because we could not fix this from within. So we left to become strong enough to fix it from without. She gestured, and holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber, showing human achievements over the past 50 years. Cities that defied physics, technologies that manipulated the fundamental forces of reality, medical advances that had effectively eliminated disease and death from human civilization, educational systems that could elevate any mind to heights of understanding, energy generation that could power civilizations without consuming resources. This is what we accomplished in 50 years of isolation, Chen continued. Not through exploitation or conquest, but through cooperation and innovation. Every human world contributed. Every human mind participated. We became something greater than we were, not by standing on the backs of others, but by lifting each other up. High Ambassador Thren, now ancient and frail, rose from his seat with effort. And now, you return to impose this vision on us, to force us to change according to your ideals. Chen said firmly. We return to offer you a choice. The galaxy can continue as it has, with the strong dominating the weak, corruption hidden in shadows, and progress measured in conquest. Or it can evolve into something better. We will share everything we have learned, every technology we have developed, every advancement we have achieved, but only with those who prove they can use such power responsibly. And who decides what is responsible? Demanded a Keltar representative. You? Will humanity become the new tyrants, judging us all from your position of superiority? Chen smiled sadly. That is precisely the fear we expected. So let me be clear. We are not here to rule you. We are here to show you what is possible when a civilization chooses cooperation over domination. Each species, each world, must make its own choice. But understand this. The galaxy we are building will not tolerate the old ways. Slavery is over, Exploitation is over. Corruption will be exposed, not because we decree it, but because we are making the tools and systems available to everyone that will make such things impossible to hide. She turned to face the full assembly. For those who choose to join us in building this new order, we offer partnership. We will share our technology, our knowledge, our resources. For those who choose to cling to the old ways, we offer isolation. We will not attack you, but we will not engage with you either. You will be left behind as the rest of the galaxy moves forward. And what of those who actively oppose you? Asked Seer Thelmra of the Chronarchs. What of those who fight to preserve their traditional power? Then they will discover what the Valorian fleet learned, Chen replied. That we have evolved beyond the need for violence as a tool of policy. We can defend ourselves perfectly. We can disable any threat without causing harm. Fighting us is pointless. The only real choice is whether to evolve with us or fade into irrelevance. The chamber erupted in debate. Some species saw the wisdom in accepting humanity's offer. Others saw it as an unacceptable threat to their sovereignty. Still others simply could not process the fundamental shift in galactic power dynamics. Over the following months, the galaxy began to fraction and reform. Some species embraced humanity's vision immediately. They welcomed human advisors, adopted human technologies, and began implementing reforms to their societies. These worlds saw immediate benefits. Poverty decreased, healthcare improved, education flourished, and quality of life soared. Other species resisted. The Valorian Empire, humiliated by its defeat, retreated into isolationism, refusing all contact with humanity. Several smaller empires formed a coalition to preserve traditional galactic values, though without the ability to actually enforce their will. This coalition existed mainly to voice complaints. The most surprising development came from the Chronarchs. The ancient seers, whose ability to perceive future timelines had been disrupted by human technology, requested a private audience with Chen. In that meeting, Senior Seer Thelmra asked a simple question. Why can we no longer see the future clearly? What have you done? Chen's answer was both simple and profound. You cannot see the future because for the first time in millennia, the future is truly uncertain. Your species developed the ability to perceive probable timelines, but over time, this ability created a self-fulfilling prophecy. You saw certain futures and steered toward them, creating a stable but stagnant galactic order. We have introduced too many variables, too many possibilities. The future is now open in ways it has not been for thousands of years. Is this not terrifying? Thelmra asked. To exist without knowing what comes next? It is freedom, Chen replied. The freedom to create something genuinely new, rather than following predetermined paths. Your species can choose to fear this, or embrace it. We hope you will embrace it. The Chronarchs took 3 months to deliberate. In the end, they accepted humanity's offer, and became one of the strongest advocates for the new order. Their temporal mathematics, combined with human dimensional manipulation, led to breakthroughs that benefited the entire galaxy. As the years passed, the transformation accelerated. Human technologies spread throughout cooperating species. Former slave worlds became prosperous centers of culture and learning. Corrupt systems collapsed under the weight of transparency. The old empires that had dominated for millennia found themselves increasingly isolated and irrelevant. 10 years after humanity's return, High Chancellor Vortek called a special council session. He was incredibly ancient now, his carapace nearly white with age, but he had insisted on remaining in his position to see the transformation through. I have served the Galactic Council for 140 years, he announced to the Assembly. I have witnessed wars, peace treaties, the rise and fall of empires, but I have never witnessed change on the scale we are experiencing now. And I must confess something. Humanity was right. Our system was broken. We had grown complacent, comfortable with injustice, as long as it did not affect us personally. It took an entire species leaving us in disgust to show us what we had become. He looked at Chen, who sat in the human delegation seats. Ambassador Chen, you told us 50 years ago that you were grateful we let you leave in peace. On behalf of the Council, I must now say we are grateful you chose to return and show us a better way, not through conquest, but through example. Chen stood and bowed slightly. Chancellor, humanity learned long ago that change cannot be forced. It must be inspired. We did not return as conquerors because we learned in our time of isolation that true strength is not the power to destroy, but the wisdom to build. We could have destroyed the old order, but we chose instead to make it obsolete by offering something better. She looked around the chamber at the representatives of species who had once dismissed humanity as unremarkable. We were permitted to leave in silence. You thought you were solving a problem. You thought we were weak, troublesome, not worth the effort of keeping in the fold. And perhaps we were then. But you gave us something precious. Time and freedom to become what we needed to be. For that, we are grateful. And now we use what we have become, not to punish you for your dismissal, but to show you what you could become as well. The vote to restructure the Galactic Council along principles of equality, transparency, and cooperation passed with near unanimity. The old hierarchy was dismantled. The exploitation ended. The galaxy began to function as a true community of equals, rather than a pyramid of the powerful standing on the weak. Ambassador Thakren, the Valorian who had once celebrated humanity's departure, attended the ceremony marking the new council's formation. He was ancient now, his scales pale and his movements slow. He approached Chen privately afterward. I was wrong, he said simply. I celebrated when you left. I thought we were better off without you. I could not have been more mistaken. Chen regarded him with compassion rather than judgment. You were not wrong to let us leave, Ambassador. You were wrong to think our departure solved anything. But perhaps it needed to happen this way. Perhaps we needed to leave to become what the galaxy needed. Perhaps you needed to feel the consequences of our absence to understand what you had lost. And now? Thakren asked. Now that we exist in this new order you have created. Now we build together, Chen replied. Humans and Valorians, Keltar and Chronarchs, all species working as equals toward a common future. The dread you felt when you realized we were coming back was justified, but not because we came as destroyers, because you knew deep down that we came carrying the mirror of judgment, and in that mirror you saw what you had become. The dread was self-knowledge finally arriving. She placed a gentle hand on his arm. But here is the beautiful truth, Ambassador. Dread can transform into hope. Fear can become determination. Regret can become resolution to do better. That is what we offer. Not punishment for the past, but possibility for the future. The ceremony continued around them, celebrating the birth of a new galactic age. Humanity had returned not as conquerors, but as architects, and they had remade the galaxy not through force, but through vision. They had been permitted to leave in silence, and in that silence they had found themselves. And when they returned, they brought that self-knowledge back as a gift to the civilization that had let them go. The council had existed in dread because they feared judgment. But judgment had come not as destruction, but as opportunity. The opportunity to become better than they had been. The old order had ended not with fire, but with transformation. And in the spaces where fear had lived, hope was beginning to grow.